Well, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Do's and Don'ts of Estate Planning for Seniors. I'm Bob Ross from Ross Estate Planning, and Jane Susie, who's a partner in our firm. We are here to talk to you about the do's and don'ts. So I've been in Door County for over 40 years, and Jane's been practicing with us for 3 years, but has been practicing for a lot longer. A wealth of experience that we are so glad to have on board. And so we're a little different than others. As attorneys, estate planning is all we do. We don't charge by the hour, we don't charge for phone calls, because we really like to meet with you and talk to you about the issues that are going on in your life.
The last time that we were here, we talked about the 3 critical things that we felt you should do right now, and we added a 4th bonus. Just as a little bit of a reminder on that, it was let's get organized, let's make sure that our financial power of attorney is good, let's make sure our health care directives are good, and then we threw in some information about what we call grab and go folders, where we want you to collect some information that might be necessary in the event of a medical or other emergency. If you would like to go back and listen to that one, you go to www.adrcdoorcounty.org. You click on the ADRC at home square down lower in the frame, and then you can link. You can scroll down. There are different categories. We are in the presentation category, and it says Ross Estate Planning. So we hope you'll do that because there's really good information that's still exceptionally relevant now. But today we're going to talk more about some of the do's and don'ts based on the things that we hear from clients and the things that we sometimes have to correct and the things that sometimes we encourage people to do even more. And so we're going to talk about that today.
And Jane, if folks want to contact us to get information or just have questions, how do they do that?
Well, absolutely. Ross Estate Planning is available 920-743-9117. But if there's something that we talk about today that you have a specific question on, you'd like to reach out to us directly through email, we recommend you email Kathy with a C, C-A-T-H-Y, at rossestateplanning.com, all one word, Kathy at rossestateplanning.com.
All right, so let's get started with some do's. Get organized. Even though we did review this last time, we just want to review this a little bit. So how do you get organized? Well, we want a list of who are the important people in your life, who are your advisors, who handles your insurance, where is your bank, who are the important people that you deal with. And this time of year, who is your tax preparer? Because we need to know who all those people are. And if you have a safety deposit box, where is it and where's the key? Although this past year has taught us safety deposit boxes and their need has changed, because if you had a safety deposit box a year ago, the bank lobbies were closed and you couldn't get to it. So you really need to find some alternate places to store important information. So what might that be? Well, maybe you have a safe at home. And if you do, where is it? Where's the key? And what's the combination? And have an inventory of what is in that box.
The whole idea is to try to organize what someone might have to come in and find for you in the event of an emergency. You're not there, you're not able to tell them things. So when we say we want this information, what we want is for you to collect it. So Bob, now they've collected all this information, they've found things they haven't looked at in a really long time. What do they do with it?
Well, one of the first things you can do is have a family meeting. We have just done 2 of those this past week, and we have really learned how to use technology. COVID has taught us that. So have a Zoom meeting where you meet with the kids, and if you can invite your advisors to be part of that meeting. That way the family gets to meet the advisors. Because one of the greatest gifts you can give to your kids is knowing who the advisors are, because they worked well with you. You want to make sure that the kids know who they are. So it's really important to have a family meeting and actually meet with the advisors and invite the kids to come along to that meeting. Meeting with CPAs this time of year is a little harder, so you make the appointment after April 15th, well now May 15th, because it's been extended because the CPAs will be busy, but make that appointment so that the family gets to meet the advisors and the advisors get to meet the family. And
Attorneys can be awfully intimidating. I think that the whole idea of calling your parent's attorney if something happens to them, that can be awfully daunting for a child. And so if they've gotten a chance to come in and meet us, meet your attorney, it's something that you're helping put their mind at ease about so that they know it's not going to be quite so scary to pick up the phone and give us a call if there's an emergency.
Yeah, and really an important part of getting organized is find your existing estate planning documents. Because if you have a hard time finding them, imagine the difficulty the kids will have. And once you've found it, review that plan. What does it say? Have things changed in your life? And in this day and age, passwords. 10 years ago, that was just not on our radar. Now, everybody and everything has a password, even to get into your garage.
I think that being organized, Bob talked about a gift being to your family, but I think having an organized estate plan is the greatest gift that you can give to your family. They're going to be going through an awful struggle when you're either incapacitated or you pass away, and the more that you can do to help them prepare and to have things organized for them, then the easier you're going to make it for them. And being planned out, talking about these things, it's not morbid. It's not that if you do a will, you're suddenly going to die. What it is about being prepared, and if COVID has taught us anything, we've learned that things can happen we never expected, and it's a good idea to get ready.
So how do we get ready? Well, the first thing you need to do is update that old plan. And if you have one, congratulations, because unfortunately about 70% of the population has a plan put together by the state rather than you. So look at it. What does it say? Are the people that you named in positions of responsibility, are they still the choices you want to make? Has anything changed in your life? Have you moved? Have you retired? Has somebody died? Have you gotten divorced? Or has something happened to some of the kids? Have they moved? Our kids, they never move these days. So their addresses have changed. We need to update all of that information. Have you moved here to Door County from another state? We are finding now, COVID has taught us that more and more folks who are working remotely are moving to Door County because they say, I don't have to commute to the downtown office any longer. I can work from the comfort of my own home. So that's a change. If you had laws or your plan put together in Illinois, their rules are different than here in Wisconsin. So it's important we get together and review that plan.
We're going to talk about this later, but Ross Estate Planning will review a plan that you've got, any documents that you've got for your estate plan, whether we prepared them or not. And we do that on a complimentary basis. We really push education. We want you to not only know where your plan is, we want you to understand it. And we want to be able to look at it in light of the education that we all have and just make sure that it's what it should be and it's what you thought it was too.
And so one of the really important do's, Jane, is review the named agents. How do they do that?
Well, so named agents, what does that mean? Well, if you have a power of attorney, then your attorney in fact for financial matters is your financial agent. If you have healthcare directives, then you've named a healthcare agent. If you've done your plan some time ago, are those still the people that you feel are the right ones to make your decisions for you? You want to look through those every now and then and make sure that it's up to date with what you want.
And what if they've named a professional, but now that bank or broker is no longer in business or has merged or has changed their names?
Well, we see that a lot, don't we? With Bay Lake Bank was named as a trustee and Bay Lake Bank is no longer around. We'd really want to look at your plan and make sure that there's some alternative in there to cover it if Bay Lake Bank is no longer in business. There are professional trustees out there, so you've moved to Door County and you really don't have somebody close to you. There are professional trustees at banks, Nicolay Bank, Johnson Bank, Associated Bank, all have professional trustees. And then there are trustees that are not associated with an actual institution, like Fiduciary Partners out of Appleton. And Bob, tell us a little bit about the company you know called ICOR.
ICOR is a service started by Dr. David Ferguson. So many folks have retired to Door County and they don't have any family around to name as a healthcare agent or to assist them with medical activities. Dr. Ferguson has formed this company called ICOR, and you can call them, and he will sit down and meet with you. We've had his company named as an actual healthcare agent because our clients just had nobody else. They had no children, or none of the family was available. We've had some where family was in Europe. And so Dr. Ferguson and ICOR has been able to really step up and help those folks.
And proximity is not necessarily the key. And now that we all are learning FaceTime and we're learning Zoom, you could have your healthcare agent be your daughter who is a doctor in New Orleans, and they have the ability to be there virtually to help you make decisions. And so we don't want you to be feel like you're tied down to only having somebody locally, because things have changed and we've all figured out how to work with people remotely.
Yep. Well, and one of the most important documents or assets that I see in clients' estate plans is retirement plans. Virtually every client I see has an IRA or a 401k or some type of retirement plan. And it's really important that you review that plan and who are the beneficiaries that you have listed, because the beneficiaries listed in the plan override what's in your will or your trust. When we do these live, I always ask the question, how do you change a beneficiary designation? Can your will or your trust do that? The answer is no. So it is really important that you find those beneficiary designation forms. That's part of being organized. Where are those forms? Because if you can't find it, what's the chance of your family being able to find it? And the problem we are running into even today is life insurance policies and retirement plans have been moved to different companies. And those companies have not always kept all of the records. So it's important that you keep those records so that we can get back to that company and make sure that your insurance policy or your retirement plan goes where you want it to go.
So if you had a beneficiary designation, Bob, and then you got divorced, does automatically your new spouse become your beneficiary?
No. A very good friend of mine got divorced several years ago, and when we did a review, he said, Bob, I promise you I have changed that beneficiary designation to my new spouse. I said, thank you, but I don't believe you. Prove it. Well, fortunately, he was able to find the form. He came into me and very sheepishly said, wow, I did not change that form. So that would have been interesting at the Thanksgiving dinner had this not been resolved. So it's a divorce does not change those beneficiary forms. Even if the divorce decree says it's changed, you have to go back to the company and make sure that that change happens.
So we've talked about reviewing your plan, reviewing your agents, reviewing your beneficiary designations, but really also key is if you have no plan, you need to maybe think about getting started with that. Don't let the idea that you don't know all the answers of how you want something to happen stop you from getting started. There are things that we're going to talk to you about in our initial consultation and the information that we give you that you may not even have known was an option and may solve some of the things that have kept you from coming in the first place. We always joke that it's not the other attorneys or other estate planners who our competition is. It's apathy. We need something to get you off of your seat and get you into an office to start talking about these things. It's not as overwhelming or foreboding as it may sound, and you will feel better when you're finished. And it all starts with a conversation.
Absolutely does. And when you contact us, you will probably hear this wonderful person, our Director of First Impressions, Lauren. She will have a packet that she sends out to you. And part of our 7-step process is we like to just sit with you and talk about what are your issues, what are your concerns, and how can we help address them. We call that first meeting kind of discover and educate. We get to discover what are the issues, you get to educate us about you and the family, and then together we can put together a good plan that works for you.
So we've been talking about some do's. We do want you to review your old plan. We do want you to get organized. We do want you to review your agents. We do want you to get started on a plan if you haven't already. But one of the other things that is a really hot topic right now is Roth conversions. Bob, can you tell us about
Sure.
Roth conversions?
Yeah, we used to call it the Ross conversion, where you convert it to Bob Ross, but no, it's a Roth, R-O-T-H. A Roth IRA is an IRA that is after-tax dollars. And what I want folks to strongly think about right now is taking some money out of your regular IRA and doing a Roth conversion, where yes, you have to pay the tax, but I'm after folks to be doing it now because we are seeing the lowest income taxes we're going to see in a long time. So if you start taking that money out, you pay the tax, because when you take money out of a regular IRA, you have to pay the tax on it. And if you leave that to your family, your children, one of the changes that's happened with the Secure Act is children now have 10 years to take it out. And when they take it out, it comes out at their tax rate. And I know a lot of our children are in higher tax brackets than we are. So if they have to take it out and pay the tax, you just have made Uncle Sam a big beneficiary of your plan. So if we can take some of that regular IRA and convert it to a Roth IRA, you pay the tax now, and then you don't have required distributions. With a regular IRA, once you hit now 72, you have to take money out of your Roth or your regular IRA. You don't have to take money out of a Roth IRA. And so it's important that if we do this conversion, that now your children can basically let that plan sit for 10 years. They don't have to take anything out till the 10th year. And if you had an investment advisor that you could go to and say, you have 10 years to invest this, and I'm not going to take anything out of it, don't you think that would be a pretty nice plan? And then Christmas of the 10th year, you have a pretty good Christmas party, because that's when all the money has to come out, but all of it comes out tax-free.
Is it only what we've converted from the other one and paid tax on that then comes out tax-free later?
Yes, and also all the growth.
All the growth.
So yes, you've paid tax on the conversion, but now if it grows. And just as an example, I had a very good friend who back in 2009, and remember where the stock market was back then, it was about 9,000 on the Dow, and today we're at 32,000. He converted all of his IRAs back then to a Roth IRA. Had he not done that, we still would have gotten that same growth, but it would have been taxable when he had to take it out. Now, all that growth happened tax-free. So he needed to take some money out to buy a car. He took $30,000 out. That's all he had to take out. If he had to take out from a regular IRA, he'd have to take out $40,000 and give 10 to Uncle Sam.
So can I open a Roth account if I'm retired?
Absolutely you can. Now Roth conversion is different than Roth contribution. You can only contribute to a Roth IRA if you're working. This is for anybody who doesn't have wages. You can do a Roth conversion anytime. There are no restrictions on it. Well, there is one. It's how big of a check do you want to write to Uncle Sam? That's the biggest concern. And this is a team effort. To do a Roth conversion, you need to first meet with your CPA, and because they will look at your income taxes and check how much of the can you convert and keep you in the same tax bracket. And then you meet with your financial advisor, because that's the person who will actually do the Roth conversion. And what I want folks to do is just get started. It's not an all or nothing. You don't have to convert the entire IRA. You can convert $5,000 or $10,000. Just get the process started. Now, my crystal ball's a little cloudy, but our market's been running up for about 10 years. And if we have a correction and the value of those plans go down, well, let's turn lemons into lemonade. Let's now do that bigger conversion when that value is down, and then 10 years later, if it's recovered, all of that recovery is tax-free.
We talk about Roth conversions not because we do Roth conversions. We're not investors. We talk about Roth conversions because, like Bob said, it's going to affect how we structure your plan. It's going to be a different structure. If we know that what your children have to take out within 10 years after the second of you passes is going to be taxed, then we may have some different advice for you. And so it's one of the reasons that we bring this up quite a bit. But there are other ways that you can use your IRA in planning too. What else
Absolutely.
would we suggest?
For those of you that are over 70 and a half, now we know the Secure Act changed the required beginning date from 70 and a half to 72. But what they didn't change is the age 70 and a half for giving money to charity. What you can do once you hit that magic 70 and a half, you can give money from your IRA direct to charity. And today, you know, you've got such a high standard deduction, we really don't get the charitable deduction any longer. But if you go to your IRA administrator and say, look, I want to write a check to my church, or, you know, in Door County, if there's any part of Door County that you like, there's a nonprofit involved somewhere. We have over 300 nonprofits just in Door County alone. And they all need help, especially after this past year, when I saw some of my favorite organizations not open up. And hopefully they'll be back open this year. They all need help. So go to your plan administrator and say, look, I want to write a check to my charity. That limit is $100,000 per year per person. So if you do have required distributions, that counts towards that. So it's a wonderful way to give money to charity, and since you don't pay income tax on it, I like to tell folks that's like you got 100% deduction. Because you don't pay any tax on it. Doesn't mess up your Medicare premiums, and life goes on, and the charities need your help.
So another do that we'd like you to do is to look into long-term care insurance. Now, a lot of you may be thinking, oh, I'm way too old for long-term care insurance. Long-term care insurance is way too expensive. When we're talking about long-term care insurance, what we're talking about is something that's going to help you pay for skilled nursing, assisted living, or nursing in your home when you're not able to take care of yourself completely. It's not that it's the same price as life insurance, but there are so many new products that are out there that come in such a variety that if you haven't had a quote for long-term care insurance recently, it's a really good idea to at least sit down with somebody and find out what's out there. We're not, we can't sell it to you, we're not going to get a benefit from getting you to get it, but I can tell you that there are a variety of policies where maybe you're just buying hours of in-home care, and you don't have to be younger, you don't have to be in perfect health in order to do that. So,
yeah. Well, and a lot of folks come to me and say, but long-term care insurance is expensive. And I go, you're right. But what's the cost of a nursing home every month? If you pay $5,000 a year for long-term care insurance, and you pay that premium for 20 years, I mean, that's $100,000. What would it take to spend that in a nursing home at today's rates?
and there are lots of providers for long-term care insurance. You may have a Prudential representative that you work with, or a Morgan Stanley, or any of those. We are not trying to dissuade you from getting quotes from those people. We will tell you there is a company in out of the Green Bay and Sturgeon Bay area called The Long-Term Care Guy. It's Romeo Robbie, thelongtermcareguy.com is his website, and he sells only long-term care insurance, and he's going to be able to give you such a wide variety of ideas about what might be out there. It's something that is just worth your time to find out.
Yeah, we learn something new every time we meet with him.
Yes.
There are some plans you can't get to, you're actually in the nursing home.
Right.
So something switching from do to don't, you don't want to be afraid to share information. I know so many folks say, look, I don't want to let my kids know where things are, who the important people to talk to. That's just critical today that you share that information. And when you come to see us, we're going to ask you for all of that, because it's important. We can't do a good plan for you if we don't know what's all out there.
And I do a lot of long-term care planning within the office, and it's awfully difficult to do a Medicaid plan, for example, for somebody. If I'm working with the children and the children have never been told where the parents have invested, who their banker is, who their insurance agent is. It makes it a very difficult thing. And not just children. Just because there may be one of you in a relationship that traditionally writes the bills or pays the checks, whatever, that doesn't mean that you shouldn't include the other and get education now, because when you're gone, it's going to be a much more daunting process for them to learn than when you're here and you can share that with them, share where things are, introduce them, introduce your spouse to the investment person that you've been working with all along. Again, it's a whole lot easier to go in and talk to somebody later that you've already met and not have to be so scared of it.
Well, Jane, have we seen folks where, say, the husband wrote all the checks and mom never wrote a check, now dad passes away?
Just as much as we've seen moms who wrote all the checks and dad doesn't know where the checkbook is. So it's really important. We need to share, we need to, with this day and age when things come as electronic statements, etc., we can't just wait in the mail for a statement to come to find out what you have. So sharing that, sharing what your hopes and thoughts are for what happens later, it's something that's critical, and you can't not do it just because you're trying to keep a box around what you know and what you have.
Yeah, and again, passwords are so critical. We had an estate where the husband had all of his accounts on his phone. And when he passed away, his wife did not know his passwords. And like Jane said, we didn't get statements in the mail any longer. He got them all electronically. So it took us a long time to try and deal with that estate. So it is critical that you share information. Where are things and passwords today? I use a password manager called LastPass, just where I store all of my passwords. And that's a place where, because I do work remotely and you need passwords, I don't remember what all those are, because you have to have these long passwords these days, and the places make you change them. So how do you remember all of that stuff? So have some kind of password manager.
So another don't, and this is something that we encounter all the time, is mom and dad coming in and saying, I want to give my house to the kids. I want to give the cottage to the kids. I don't want the nursing home to take it away from us when I have to go in there or my spouse has to go in there. And we want to really, really emphasize for you that there are such better ways to deal with your house, your real estate, than to give it to your kids. Not only do you give them your property, which then is their property if they have a car accident and now have a judgment against them, or they filed bankruptcy, or they get divorced. That's their asset once you've titled it in their name.
Well, let's, Jane, so that we've got this 40 that we've had for years and years. We want to give that to the kids. Are there some tax downsides to doing that?
Well, absolutely. If you give land or real estate or other appreciated assets to a child or another person during your lifetime, then they take the tax basis that you have in it. So you have a farm. A long time ago, you paid $20,000 for 60 acres, and now in today's market, it's worth $250,000. If I give that to my child during my lifetime, then my child gets my $20,000 basis in it. If instead my child inherits it from my estate, then that capital gains exposure goes away because they get to up their tax basis to what it is on the date of death. And so if we wait to give it to them till they inherit it, then we've not only eliminated the liability issues, but we've also eliminated the tax nightmare that we're going to give them. And when I say there are better ways, there are asset protection tools we can use, like irrevocable trusts, for example, where the children may have some control over it and it's no longer in your name. So we've done some things to try to help protect it in the event that long-term care is necessary in the future.
Yeah, and just to follow up on that, when folks come into us, we frequently see families who have added kids onto their bank accounts. That's just a bad idea, because if the kids get divorced, what happens to that account? They are an owner of that account. If they get into a car accident, the kids are an owner of that account. As Jane said, there are better ways. And instead of having the kids be an owner of the account, you do a good power of attorney. That way they have access to the account, they can pay the bills, because when folks come into me and I ask them, why'd you add your son or daughter? Well, so they can pay my bills. Well, okay, we can give them that authority without the downsides of them being an owner of the account.
And what you want to do in that situation also is to look at your statement the next time you get it. Say that you went to your institution and you said, I want my son to be able to write checks on my account, thinking that they were just giving them access. The next statement that you got sure shouldn't show your son as one of the titled owners on it. If that's the case, you need to go back and say, no, I don't want them to be an owner, I want them to be an agent. And if there's paperwork that they need, give us a call and we'll help you out with that.
So Jane, we've talked about a lot of do's and don'ts. What's the one piece of advice we should get them today?
I think that probably the most important advice we're going to give you today is don't procrastinate. Stop putting this off. These are things that are necessary. They're good sense, and they're going to make you feel better if you at least get started with them. Go find out what your options are, and stop thinking that if you go and talk to somebody about what's going to happen when you die, that you're going to die the next day. I think that's something that we hear a lot. Oh, I don't want to think about what's going to happen. Well, if you don't think about it, then you're sure going to make your children and your loved ones have to do a lot of extra thinking when something does happen to you.
Yeah, and what has COVID taught us today? Be prepared. There are just so many things that can go wrong, and COVID has really made us be more proactive about getting planning done. And so it's important, like Jane said, don't procrastinate. You know, you've all heard the old saying, well, I will get around to it. Well, consider this around to it. You have just now gotten around to it. You have to get around to it. And we would appreciate it. If you do have questions, give us a call. You know, Jane, Susie, Bob, Ross, or any of our team at Ross Estate Planning, 920-743-9117. And we do Zoom meetings, we do in-person meetings, whatever you are comfortable with. And we have offices, our main office is here in Sturgeon Bay, but we also have offices in Green Bay, so we can make it easier for folks to meet with us.
We would really like to work with you. We'd really like to talk with you. But if you don't feel comfortable, or you've got a long-standing relationship with a different attorney, that's great too. Just do something.
Thank you.
Thank you.